All right, well, let's get going then. Welcome everyone to the course, the School of Plant Nutrition's Health Educator Teacher Training. I'm Fred Bush. I could not be happier to be here with you at the beginning of this extremely amazing journey that we're going to be taking together as we're going to be exploring lots and lots of information at a great depth and try to understand what it is that's going on out there in the world today and how we can help to make it better. And that's the goal. All right, so here we go. Let's get started here. All right, so module 1 is called The Time Has Come. And the time has come means, we can see it all around us. The time has come for us to take responsibility and to begin to work one person at a time and really try to help heal the place and the people and the planet. Because as we look around, we're going to see that that's really necessary. So here's my contact information here. You'll see my WhatsApp number. You'll see my email address, direct email address. You'll see my Instagram and my TikTok tags there at Fred Bush Yoga. So that's how to contact me anytime you want to. Okay. All right. So why are we needed? Why are health educators needed? What's going on? What are we seeing? What are the trends that we're seeing? Okay. Well, the first thing that we're seeing, if we look around us, is that kind of like what I call the herd. Us, the people all around us. Our friends and our family. The human herd, as we could call it. We're essentially falling off the cliff. And what does that mean? There's I don't even know that I've seen this in nature, but there is, a wisdom about herd animals. And it's said that when a herd animals are running and they're running really fast and, there's herd, right? So thousands and thousands of animals. And apparently that if it happens to be the case that the lead animals run off of a cliff and just fall to their death, that the nature of the herd is that everyone just seems to run off the cliff with the lead animal. So again, I have not seen, bison or antelope all jumping off a cliff together, but I have a feeling it's probably true and that this saying comes from a reason. Well, what's going on with us humans? Well, us humans kind of the similar situation. We're seeing the people who are in front of us. We're seeing people that are really getting we could say torn up by the different medical paradigms and the different approaches that are Western based, and we see people that are getting sick and they're not getting their issues resolved. We're seeing people that are obese, and we're seeing people that are with blood pressure and all the different lymphomas and the different cancers, the diabetes and the different nervous systems. So what are we seeing? We're seeing everyone kind of just getting sick and falling off the cliff, we could say, in this metaphor. And so what are we doing? Well, if we're not careful, if we don't look around and stick our head out a little bit, what we're going to be doing is we're going to fall off the cliff with everybody else. We're following what everyone else is doing. And this is what needs to change. See, what changes is that there is too much misinformation, and this misinformation is creating an environment where everybody is basically in a situation of suffering, and we're going to talk about why they're suffering. But the first thing is that we look around and really we're not a healthy group. And as people get younger, people are not getting healthier. In fact, the younger generations are less healthy than the older generations, which is unacceptable. So why are we needed? Well, because people are suffering all around us. People don't know what they're doing, as we're going to talk about the variables for well-being, and most people are not aware of these variables. And so there's a lot of suffering. People are suffering, and so why are we needed? Because a lot of this suffering is preventable. Okay, it's preventable. And in my mind, and in the view of this course, we're certainly happy and able and we are intending to help people resolve their health challenges. And that's one of the main focuses: how to help people resolve their health challenges. But guess what's better than resolving a health challenge? Is preventing it. Okay, and so if we could learn how to prevent, this is, if not as good, it is better really than learning how to resolve. And one of the interesting things is that what we need to do to prevent different health challenges is the same thing, the same protocol that we will be needing to do to resolve them. All right. So why are we needed? Well, because we're in a world where the allopathic, which we'll talk about what that means. It means Western-based medical paradigm is utilizing pharmaceuticals. And in the use of pharmaceuticals, it's actually creating a much worse situation than would be the case. So let's just look at some of these numbers here, okay? Now, this is something called the pharma death clock. Now, if I were, I showed you here the website, and this is actually in real time. Now, on my slide, it's not in real time, but if I went to this website, these numbers would all be different. And so what are we seeing here? We're seeing that, this is a list of all the people that have died since, I think, 2001 from the different approaches of Western medicine. So chemotherapy has killed 23 million people approximately. Iatrogenic deaths, that means deaths from the wrong prescription of medicine. Hospital errors, 10 million people. Bed sore, medical errors, hospital infections. Okay, what I'm talking about here is that we're living in a paradigm where resolving health issues is not easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because we're getting involved in a system that really does not understand the causes. Okay, now here's some really nice quotes, okay, that I like a lot. Just kind of setting up the stage as to what's going on and why we're needed. And I love doctors that are talented and that have an open mind and that are. I work with certain medical doctors as well, and so I know when I make a quote like this, I don't mean to be wholesale about it, but look at the quote. Doctors are men who prescribe medicines of which they know little to cure diseases which they know less in human beings of whom they know nothing. And that was written a long time ago, maybe in the 1500s, Voltaire. And Voltaire also said the art of medicine consists of amusing the patient while nature cures the disease. You see, one of the things that we're going to learn is that there's a difference between health and wellness versus pathology. Okay, and doctors, while they are studying pathology, they don't actually study health. And so one of the things that is important to help people to be healthy is to understand what is required to be healthy, as opposed to just being able to identify different pathologies and then to prescribe pharmaceuticals, and which are another word for poisons, in an attempt to resolve that. So what is a health educator? And what is our mission? The whole thing is that we're not here to judge people. We're not here to talk on a high horse, looking down on people. We're not here to scare people into they have to change their life. Uh, no, no, no. We're here to educate. Okay, that's why I call it a health educator teacher training. And to me, this word education is really important because the fact is that if you look around, the number one we can say obstacle to people and their wellness is a lack of information. People just do not know what they're doing. Simply a lack of information. Now, sometimes it's not just information, sometimes it's actually the absorption of misinformation. But whichever one it is, either they're absorbing false information or they lack valid information. These are related issues. What it really is a lack of information. And so first things first, we've got to elevate people's level of knowledge about this subject. And so that's why, for us, our kind of like our main, we could say, quote, or our main inspiring mission is knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. That's why I'm here. I'm here to speak to you about knowledge and to empower you. And that's what you're going to be doing with your clients and with your students. You're going to be elevating their level of knowledge. What's that going to do? Well, it's going to give people a choice. You see, when somebody is, we could say handcuffed to their own ignorance or their own lack of information, then they go through the same motions. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. Cultural reasons, family reasons, habits and patterns. But the fact is that what's driving the continuation of these patterns is a lack of information. Okay, so just come back to it. Knowledge is power. Knowledge gives you choices. Knowledge gives you options. And so, as a health educator, and what this teacher training is all about is let's bring up everyone's level of knowledge, and then everyone can do whatever they want. Okay, if we're all adults here, you can do whatever you want. You could eat however you want. You can do anything you want, but you should know what you're doing and know that there are different options and that ultimately it's your choice. But it can only be your choice if you have the knowledge and you are aware. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to empower, to educate, to inspire. And we know that prevention is better than cure, that prevention and cure really are going to be the same protocol, and that we can really, really help people. Deeply. And so we're very, very blessed to be on a path and to be able to help people truly may be the most fulfilling thing in the world. I say that about yoga. I say that about yoga teachers and how as a yoga teacher you can help people. Well, my gosh, being a health educator and helping appreciate that this opening that is called the mouth, it's a biological opening. It's not a garbage can. And helping people to understand this and to appreciate that what comes in here is extremely important, and why, wow, that is really, really fundamental, as we're about to learn more. So what is the medical approach? What's it called? What's it all about? It's called the palliative approach. Now, you can call it Western medicine. You can call it allopathic medicine. These are all words that are describing, the type of approach that's going on here. And that approach is basically reduced to that word there. It's called palliative. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that word, but in English, the word palliative means that they're interested in alleviating your symptoms. Okay, alleviating your symptoms or alleviating your pain. In other words, the goal of Western medicine is to eliminate symptoms and to eliminate pain. Okay, now that's the goal. And that's called the palliative approach. Now, the palliative approach is focused entirely on the symptoms and not on what? The cause. Okay, so let's appreciate this, because this is something that we're going to take, nice and easy as we understand this, as to, again, why is it that people's health issues are not being resolved? In fact, they're just sick and getting sicker and getting sicker. Well, okay, why? Because of this approach. Well, let's look at it. Symptom-based approach and allopathic medicine. So let's just say, for example, that we have a headache. Okay, we have a headache, and we go to a doctor for a headache, and the doctor, usually when we go in and go and speak to the doctor about the headache, basically he's not, or she is not, going to ask us very many questions about, for example, what do we eat? Probably not going to get a lot of questions about how much are we exercising. We're probably not going to get a lot of questions about, how are we operating in our minds, and are we able to be more self-aware? We're not going to get a lot of questions about that. But not going to get many questions or anything. But what we're going to get is a couple of options, and we're probably going to be told, well, look, for this kind of a headache, we could start with, I recommend, they might say that we're going to start with something maybe over the counter, maybe ibuprofen. Let's just start with Tylenol at first, and let's see how that works. And then maybe if it's, and then if you come back in a few weeks and then your headaches are not resolved, well, then maybe we've got, of course, something stronger. Okay, so the bottom line is that they're going to give you a chemical. Now, the question that has to be asked, whether it's blood pressure medicine or whatever it is, the question is very simple. Was it a deficiency in Tylenol or a deficiency in ibuprofen that was the cause of this person's headache? Was it a deficiency of Tylenol that caused your headache? No. So then why would anyone want to give you Tylenol, which is actually a pretty strong toxic chemical, to resolve your headache when a deficiency wasn't the cause in the first place? So do you see that? That's the question. Now, what happens? Well, what happens is that instead of you listening to your body, you see, whether it's a symptom or whether it's pain, it is a message. Okay? Now, what is the message? What is the message? When your body's talking to you and you're hearing it, and it's either pain or it's a symptom, a headache, or what, call it what you want, an expression of a challenge. What is the body saying? What's going on? Well, it's a very clear message. The message is something needs to change. Okay, that's the message. You have pain, you have symptoms, something needs to change. Your body's telling you that. Well, if instead of changing and listening to your body, instead of doing that, you add another poison or another chemical into your body, into your chemistry, the symptom might go away because the body is now distracted by a new threat. So your body was saying, maybe I have a headache because I'm dehydrated. I'm a headache because of lack of exercise and too much tension. But instead of getting myself the exercise, or instead of getting myself hydrated, I take a poison, a pill. And then my body is so distracted by the new poison, it decides that the dehydration issue is not as important anymore. Now it's got something else to worry about. And so the headache goes away, and your energy is now basically being marshaled in the direction of trying to neutralize this new threat. And so over and over again, with the pharmaceutical world and the symptom-based world, we're really just making it more and more complicated and farther away from health. So what is the difference between the school of plant nutrition and what we could call more Eastern-based approaches is that we're interested in the cause, not the symptom. Once we resolve the cause, the symptom resolves itself. Okay? So the palliative approach is superficial. You know, as long as the symptom goes away, they've done their job, regardless of whether or not the cause has ever been. I think that we're all aware of the fact that if the cause is not addressed, not only will it not heal or will it just only resolve temporarily, it will repeat itself. You understand? If we're not repeating, if we're not learning and changing, then these things just repeat and repeat and repeat. So it's like pill, symptom, more pills, more symptoms, and then all of a sudden we've got the situation that most of us probably know somebody where they have a box of pills. You ever seen those pill boxes? You know, you open them up and there's like 30 pills, like, and there's Monday and you got 7 and 2 are okay. Well, how could that happen? Well, that happens from this reason. Now, look at that picture on the screen. Because as far as your medical doctor is concerned, the food on the left and the food on the right is the same. Medical doctors do not appreciate, at least most of them. Now, when I say medical doctors, I only mean most of them. I do not mean all of them. Most of them do not appreciate and do not factor the relationship between food and well-being. I mean, they literally don't ask. Can you imagine? They do not ask you about what you eat. Anybody, any healer that does not ask you about what you eat does not have any way of helping you heal yourself at all. Now, is food the only factor? It's not the only factor, but it is so fundamental that if it's not considered directly first, then you're dealing with somebody who is unable to help you. All right, now, to speak more about this allopathic medical approach, I want you to understand that. I want you to understand how it works, okay? And what's really going on, because it's fascinating. You see, have you noticed that, or maybe you don't know this, but in 1950, I mean, this is one of my books, but just for fun. In 1950, the book on how many different diseases existed, in other words, how many different named diseases that there were, maybe could fit into this book, or maybe even my other book, maybe even this book. Maybe this would have been the list of all possible pathologies in 1950. Well, now the book on the list of pathologies is like this thick. It's like an encyclopedia. So since 1950 to now, the amount of disease names, the amount of diseases, the amount of pathologies that they have identified as specific things has grown, I don't know, 10 or 20 times, 20-fold. Okay. Why? Why? Well, because of this reason, that unless you have something named, unless you call it something, unless you give it a name, you cannot create a drug for it. Once you have given something a name, now you have a target. Once you have that target named and crystallized and created as a specific entity, now I can create a pharmaceutical that targets that. And that's what it's all about. It's all about creating names so that there is a sense of a target, so that a pharmaceutical drug can be developed against the target and then money can be made. You see, if I don't name it, I can't target it. If I can't target it with pharmaceuticals, I cannot make money from that. We do not live in a health care world. We live in a disease perpetuation world. Okay, I mean, they call it the healthcare industry, but it's really the disease, the disease encouragement. But it's a disease encouragement care. Okay, there's nothing healthy. There's no health here at all. What we have is a for-profit industry that makes more money based upon how sick you are. And the more sick you are, the more money they make. And the more drugs they can create as they create more names for things that never, existed before. So, and a lot of times they'll just use Latin to fool people and to making people think that this is something real, and so they'll use a Latin name and they'll put an itis at it. It was an inflammation, and arthritis. Well, arthritis, yeah, sure. Inflammation, sure. Okay, well, now that we call it arthritis, and okay, well, now we have a name for it. Well, now we can give it a drug. Okay, instead of just understanding that you have inflammation. Why do you have inflammation? Well, there's two different types of arthritis, and depending on which one, maybe, well, why don't we look at the cause? No, not in this world. In this world, the cause is not interesting because the cause, resolving the cause, does not make anybody any money. And I don't mean to be so, blunt about this, but in the world of allopathic medicine, you are not a patient. You are a customer. You're a customer, okay? And we have to appreciate this because there's a lot of people that are making a lot of money on you being sick and on your family being sick. Okay, these drug companies, these pharmaceutical companies are so big right now because there's so much money being made and everyone being sick. The healthcare industry is like 30% of the entire US economy. So now, this is a great master here, Herbert M. Shelton, a great master, one of the real originals, masters of what we study. And one of the names of our approach, it has many names. You can call it naturopathy, but one of our approaches is, the name is called natural hygiene. Hygiene means, how do you take care of yourself? How do you, that's what hygiene means, dental hygiene, but also hygiene means your entire approach to self-care. Well, this is called natural hygiene. And Dr. Shelton, Herbert Shelton, was one of the greatest masters. And this is a great quote. Surgeons can cut out everything except cause, right? So you've got a world of people that are doing really barbaric things. I had surgery on my broken leg, so I happen to really love certain surgeons, are masters, but unnecessary surgeries where they're extracting organs or taking out lymph nodes or taking out glands because they're hypo or hyperactive, anything where they decided, well, you know what, that organ is not working the way that we think, or it's too inflamed, or it's gotten in a state where it's not, let's just remove it. Well, but removing the organ did not address what caused the organ or the gland or the node's state. The cause was not addressed. Now, anybody who does not address the cause is not interested in your well-being. I hope this is starting to begin to make sense. And this is why we are needed. We are needed because we are interested in the cause. Yeah, we're interested in the symptoms, sure. Want to get rid of the headache? Sure. But why don't we get rid of the headache forever? Why don't we get rid of the headache so you never have a headache again because you understood what caused it? Instead of giving you a prescription and says, okay, every time you get a headache, just take some more pills, because that's what they're doing. And when they do that, they keep you sick forever. Let's talk about the main master of wellness. His name was Hippocrates. Have you heard of Hippocrates? Right? Yeah, right. The Hippocratic Oath, yeah. So Hippocrates said three things, and I only have one of them written down. Do I have all three? Let's see. Yeah, I only have one, but I'm going to tell them all to you. Okay, the one that's here is the most common one, and then I'll share the other ones with you. But these are really critical. Okay, and it's interesting as we analyze them to see that they're not followed, and even though all doctors supposedly take what's called the Hippocratic Oath, the fascinating part, of course, is that they don't follow it. Well, let's look at it. First thing he says, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. Fundamental. I mean, this is exactly what we're saying. I mean, it could not be more clear. Let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. In other words, we're going to heal ourselves by understanding diet, understanding what is food and what's not food. He's not saying let chemicals be your medicine and forget about food, because that's like the modern approach. He's saying let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. All right. Well, he said two more things. What else did he say? He said this too. He said, doctors, heal yourself. Doctor, heal yourself. He said that first. Heal yourself first. You know, take care of yourself first. In other words, apply the information. Doctor, heal yourself. You know, nowadays, what we have is medical doctors who you would never want to look like them. Okay. Most medical doctors are not healthy people. A lot of them are addicted to pharmaceuticals of their own prescriptions. You know, a lot of them are alcoholics. A lot of them are overweight. Some doctors still smoke cigarettes. I mean, you're talking about a group of people that are not in any way demonstrating health. So the Hippocrates is saying, doctor, heal yourself first and then go on and help everybody else. All right. Well, they don't do that. But it's this last thing that Hippocrates says that is just extremely important, and again, not followed. And this is the worst one of them all. This is the worst one. Hippocrates says, physician, do no harm. Do no harm. Man, that could not be farther from the reality. I mean, like I said, there are some amazing medical practitioners out there, amazing ones. There are the few and the far between. But for the most part, the medical paradigm is really, really hurting people. Really hurting people. I mean, just let's be clear, killing people. Killing people. I mean, we showed you, you know, this is the slide, right? This is the medical paradigm killing people. This is not illness, this is death. And this is going up every day. So, you know, we're not, you know, this is what this is. So instead of do no harm, we see a modern medical paradigm that's outright dangerous, outright dangerous. Now, let's look at this gentleman here, Robert S. Mendelsohn, medical doctor who was the dean of, I believe, the medical school at Tufts University, one of these Ivy League universities. This guy was the dean of the medical school. Okay. So you're talking about a real insider. Okay. You're not talking about, that's why he's a heretic, because he's an insider. He knows. Okay. This is a book that you should read. Okay. And I'll have it in the recommended reading list, but go ahead and make sure that you do read this book. So what's he saying? Well, he's basically describing that, let's just read this quote. Despite the tendency of doctors to call modern medicine in an inexact science. It is more accurate to say that there is practically no science in modern medicine at all. Almost everything doctors do is based on conjecture, a guess, clinical impression, a whim, a hope, a wish, an opinion, or a belief. In this book, Dr. Mendelsohn says that you should avoid hospitals at all costs. He also says there's really very little reason to go for regular medical checkups, or really to relate with the medical paradigm at all should be avoided, because the only thing you're going to do is get into trouble. Okay, so I mean, this is his book. He's saying it, which is that if you don't have a reason to interact with the medical paradigm, stay away from it, avoid it. He even calls it like a war zone, you know. And you see in that other statistical chart why. You know, you can go into a hospital and you could be killed for so many reasons that have nothing to do with why you entered. Okay, so we've got to be careful. Basically, I think the logical approach is that if you are dying, okay, we're talking about gunshot wounds, car accidents, something severe, and you're dying, you have got to go to a hospital. Me, when I shattered my leg, I had to go to a hospital and get it repaired by a medical surgeon, Western medical surgeon, for sure. So in emergencies, in cases of trauma, in cases of imminent death, well, absolutely, there's only one place you want to go, and that's a well-resourced modern medical hospital. But honestly, almost anything short of that, and you're not dying tomorrow or today, Dr. Mendelsohn and our approach would be, we probably do not want to interact with the medical paradigm. We want to resolve this in a way that is not going to be pharmaceutical based, okay? That is not going to be allopathic and palliative. We want to get to the cause. So we want to get to the cause and we want to move forward. That's our goal. Well, why is there so much confusion in nutrition? I mean, isn't it unbelievable how many different opinions there are about nutrition? I mean, how can anybody make or resolve the different contradictions? And that's, of all the many reasons why I created this school, the plant nutrition teacher training, it's for this. It's like, how can anybody be able to detect and decipher all the different contradictions that all these experts are saying? You got doctor this saying X, and doctor this saying Y, and doctor this saying Z. Everyone's contradicting each other. They're all doctors. Well, what the heck's going on? The only way to understand this is to know everything. Okay? To know everything. Once you know everything about the subject, well, then you'll be able to see which part of Dr. This person is true and which part is not true. And then Dr. Z over here, what's true, what's not true, and what's true, what's not true. The only way to be able to do that, it's called critical thinking. In order to do critical thinking, you have to have a lot of knowledge. So my goal here is to really flush out this information, make it clear, make it accessible, and then have you integrate it with some experience. See, part of this course, as we'll get to the requirements in a minute, is lifestyle. There's going to be a few weeks of you having to eat a certain way, because between the knowledge and the experience is how you're able to really, really know what is true, what's not true, and be able to resolve these contradictions, because it is so confusing for a regular person to try to understand this world of what is the right diet for a human being. I would say it's almost possible. But that's why this course has been created, to give you the power, the knowledge, the information, so that you can sift through this information, think for yourself, and realize what is true and what's not true. Now, here's an interesting point, okay? So you got all these people, they got all their opinions, right? Opinions. Their opinions. This person thinks that, everyone's got an opinion about what you should eat. All right, well, here's the thing I want to make. Here's the point I want to make. Guess what? Opinion has no place here. This is science. You know, let's look at this. So this guy has some opinions, okay? He has some opinions. This guy thinks that dolphins eat cats. Yeah, that's just his opinion. It doesn't matter what you think. He guy believes that elephants, they eat raccoons. That's what elephants eat. And his opinion, he's a doctor. That's his opinion. So he's right. Isn't that true? He's correct. He's a doctor. He's got his opinion. Well, look, nobody can have an opinion about what elephants eat. Do you agree with that statement? You cannot have an opinion about that. You cannot have an opinion about what dolphins eat. You're not allowed. No one is allowed to have an opinion about what an animal in nature eats. Isn't that obvious? Opinion has no place here. Well, guess what? You're a human being, and opinion has no place in what you eat either. It has no place. Is that understood? Does that make sense? No one is allowed to have an opinion about what humans eat, because we are a certain kind of a species. We have a certain kind of an anatomy, and that dictates what we eat, because we're part of nature. We didn't just arrive here from some other planetary system or some other universe, and now we don't apply to the laws of nature on Earth. That's not how it is. We're primates. We're going to learn about this in a minute. But the first fact is that no one is allowed to have an opinion about this. Just like I cannot have an opinion about what elephants eat. All right, so lesson 8 is on this mastery. And this is the thing, you know, many people knowledge, they study a lot of books and they read a lot, but they don't have any experience. They only know it intellectually. They don't know it actually from their own experience. And then there's a lot of people, they actually have a lot of experience, but they don't have any knowledge. They just have the experience. And in either case, that's not enough. That's not enough. That's not acceptable, because knowledge alone is empty without experience. Experience alone is too soft without knowledge behind it to fortify it. What's required if you want to be a leader and you want to be a master of a subject is the combination of experience and knowledge. Okay? When you have both, you have something that really, it allows you to have a type of confidence and a type of authority that is really what is required when you want to help somebody. You know, you want to help somebody, it's not just about reading a map. You know, reading a map, that's knowledge. Okay? It's also about having traveled along the route, and that's experience. Now, once you're along the route, yes, you need to have knowledge because it's very helpful, but it's really only helpful along the route itself. It's not helpful to study a map and never get onto the ground. Now, as teachers and as educators on a subject like this is why part of our program is going to be discussing what are you going to be eating over the next 4 to 6 weeks. And how are we going to give you the experience that is required so that you can really have this we can call it coagulation, or this congealing of your ability to express this information, because this information needs experience in order for you to have the kind of the frequency of truth behind what you're saying. Okay, so it's not just saying, well, I studied that eating a lot of fruit is really good for you. I studied that. No, it's really about, no, I did it. I ate a lot of fruit and I felt amazing, and I felt the difference. You see, and then you add that to the knowledge of what's protein and what is amino acids and all, I mean, we're going to be going through all of this stuff, and there's a very comprehensive program here. So when you have all that stuff, all that science knowledge, and then you add that to your experience, wow, now you're ready to go out there and to help people, not from your intellect, but from both your knowledge and your experience, which means your mastery, which is the source of your authority. All right. Let's take a minute now and go over the course requirements. Okay, so I'm going to change the screen here for a moment, and I'm going to put on a new screen and show you the syllabus. Okay, and show you the course requirements, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. Here. There we go. Perfect. All right. So can you see that document okay? All right. So this is a document that you have. Okay. So let's just kind of go over this document for clarity. All right. So the course requirements are the lectures. There's videos to watch, which I'll talk about in a minute. There is readings to be done, homework and assignments. That's kind of one category. And then there's an examination at the end. Okay. The examinations are written examination. The homework assignments are written based upon your readings. There's videos that are required, and of course, my lectures. Okay. The lifestyle requirements, this is what we were talking about just now. Discipline is required, period. Especially if you want to be a leader in talking about people and talking about their food and what they're eating, you have to have experienced this. So we're talking about a time right now, for sure, no alcohol, for sure, no addictive substances, nothing, no coffees. We're going to take some time off of all of these drugs. Okay, whether you had considered them to be drugs or not, they are, and we're going to take some time off. Okay, now, as a general rule, as a leader in this type of a world, and as an educator in health and in food and in all the factors here, the more extreme, the more extreme you have your personal, based in your personal experience, the better. So what does that mean? Well, this book here that I have, Clear and Definite Path, right? So when I wrote this book was in the middle of the time when I went 7 years consecutively, 7 years of eating 100% raw vegan food. Now that's 7 years without one exception. Okay, it was 100%, and it was 100% for 7 years. Now, don't you like the fact that I just told you that? You know what I mean? Doesn't that make me sound like I know what I'm talking about? Well, I don't just know what I'm talking about because of all the things I read. I know what I'm talking about because I went 7 years doing it, 100%. Now, the only reason why I mention that is so that is what I'm talking about here in the curriculum, that the more extreme you take it, the better, because you want to be able to have that in your background. You want to be able to say, look, and I went 6 months. And when I went 6 months and did this, or I know I went a year, or I went this time, or whatever it is, you did it. And it was extreme. It wasn't easy, right? And it was an experience that taught you something. But the fact is that the more extreme you make it, the better. Because then when it comes to you explaining to people who you are, what you've done, and what you've experienced, the more kind of hardcore, we could say, the more hardcore, the better. Okay. So to take this as an opportunity to challenge yourself and to take it to those places where, oh, I didn't think I could do raw vegan for that long. Well, yeah, of course you can, and longer. Try it, check it out. Okay, now we'll talk about how to do it, but I wanted you to give you that advice. All right, anyway, week 1, if you're not already vegan, you better be. Okay, we're moving into the world of plant-based foods, of course. No animal foods, none. No cheeses, no milks, none of that disgusting food. No fishes, none of that stuff. So week 1 is vegan, or you're ready to go raw vegan, go raw vegan. And these weeks, by the way, are there. We have more than 4 weeks. We might have 5. So, you just play around with this. But this is the general scheme. The second phase is raw vegan. Okay, raw vegan. Okay, so that will be a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, however long it will go, or even longer, even the whole time. I would recommend that. Third week, you want to go as much fruit as you can. Okay, so phase 3, as much fruit as you can. So if you could eat only fruit for days and days and days, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, and then on the last phase, we're moving back to raw vegan. Okay, so we're back to your salads and your vegetables and things like that. Your avocados, of course, are fruits, and or go back to vegan with a lot of fruit. Okay, so basically, this whole time of this training is not just what you're learning intellectually, it's what you're experiencing in your own life. And when those two things come together, it's going to create the experience that is the foundation for where you teach from. You don't teach from what you read in books. What you read in books is only there to reinforce your experience. And that all comes together, and that's what you're expressing as an educator. Okay. All right. Well, another requirement is to journal. Okay. Journaling is very, very valuable. Okay, and it's a real spiritual process, actually. Have you ever journaled before? You ever kept a journal? Yeah, me too. You notice how valuable they are, like later on, and you read them like 10 years later or something, and you literally just cannot believe. I just personally cannot believe, I don't know, like just how amazing it is to read them, and so anyway, the bottom line is that this is going to be adding into your journals, and you're going to really appreciate this because this is a journey, a journal about a journey. So you want to start to take so what is it? You know what journaling is. You've done it before. 10 minutes a day, writing whatever you want, your feelings, details of the day. What did you eat today? I mean, details, even the most minute things become really, really, really invaluable, actually. Okay. I will not read your journal. It's private. You keep that to yourself. Okay. Now, another requirement is that you have to write a registry of what you're eating. So we call that a food log. Okay, a log, like a list. So every day, part of your journal, but maybe a different part, so that I could look at it if I wanted to, exactly what you're eating. Okay. If it's water, you don't have to write it down, but if it's not water, you do have to write it down. Okay. Here are the required texts that you have been sent access to. The official course manual is an extremely powerfully written book by Dr. Robert Snydak. I cannot speak highly enough about this manual. Most of what I am teaching, word in my mouth, words to you, a lot of it, the foundation of that knowledge is in that manual. Okay, so there you have the source. Okay, then you have the Detox Miracle source book. That's our other main text by Dr. Robert Morse. Dr. Robert Morse is one of my main teachers, a true living inspiration, true master, and you'll see some of his videos as part of the curriculum. And then you might choose to continue your education under Dr. Morse's schools over the next few years as well, because he's got some pretty good schools and programs as well. Required is my book, the first book that I wrote, The Clear and Definite Path. You'll have that. Required is the third book that I wrote, The Medellin Wellness Protocol. You have that. Required as well is The China Study by Dr. Colin Campbell and Sugar Blues by William Duffy. You have access to all of those books. Okay. There is a final exam. There are homework questions and things like that, and video assignments, like I said. All right, well, let's look. Here you'll see between week 1 and week 2, you've got these pages to read, and this video is to see this. Okay, and you'll see the playlist that will come. There'll be a YouTube playlist, and on that YouTube playlist should be these videos. Okay. So you just see this is pretty clear, I hope. Between week 2 and week 3, you want to get that stuff read. Okay, week 3 and week 4, you want to get that stuff read, and then week 4 to the finish, get that stuff read, and everything has pages to read, videos to watch, and exactly what books. It should be pretty clear. Okay. This is the basic structure of our program. There's 6 modules. Right now, we're in the middle of the first module. The time has come. Then module 2 will become things best avoided. Module 3, biochemistry and nutritional factors. Module 4, anatomy and physiology, popular human diets. Module 5, detoxification and regeneration, modern health conditions. And module 6, professional skills, communication with the clients. Okay, and then you'll see here that you will also have, this is the curriculum that we're following on the slideshow. Okay, so you see that where we were already here on lesson 9 on the course overview, you see how we've done this in order. And so you have this file as well, and you'll see that this file will conclude with 169 lessons. Okay, so that's what we're doing. This is the basic schedule, and that's essentially your course requirements. Okay, and you have this file. If you have any questions, if you're welcome to hold your questions and write them down. You're also welcome to just stop me in the middle if it's something that's really like, wait a minute, what? Or I didn't get that, or I want him to say that again, anything like that. You can either just raise your hand because I could see you fine, and I'll call on you, and then you can ask me directly. Okay. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep flowing with the curriculum, and at the end, I will do a session of questions and answers. And so then you're also welcome to just fire away towards the end. Okay. For those of you that are not with me live and you're on the videos watching this during the week, same story. Okay. Always write your questions down, and then you can message me directly through WhatsApp with your questions, and then what I'll likely do is I'll likely answer them in the next public session so that everyone can hear the answers. Okay, so that's for people that are not live. Excellent. All right, let's keep going then and move back into the program. Okay, so that was the course overview, the requirements. We're going to be talking a lot about anatomy, we're talking a lot about physiology, we're talking a lot about chemistry, electromagnetics, we're going to be talking a lot about psychology, and we're going to be talking a lot about spirituality. because the fact is that all of these wisdoms and all of these sciences, they're all kind of aligning. They're all aligned. They all say the same thing. It's incredible, whether looking through the lens of anatomy, through the lens of chemistry, through the lens of physiology, lens of electromagnetics, they're all saying the same thing. We are a certain type of species designed to eat a certain way. And when we do, we live more optimally, and we have a greater chance of preventing disease, and we have a greater chance of resolving disease. Let me go back to the proper here. Good. All right. All right, so we've gone with the requirements. We've talked about this. This is a 100% plant-based program. Eating raw will be more powerful and more valuable, and making sure that whatever you're doing, you're eating as much fruit as you possibly can. Okay, the more fruit, the better. Okay, and that's the facts. Now you're in Malaysia, right, Shireen? Yeah. What country are you in?
I'm in Seychelles.
Oh, you're in the Seychelles. Fascinating. So I don't know what it's like out there. I don't know how much fruit you have out there, but hopefully you have access to fruits. And if that's the case, then eat as much as possible.
They have a lot of vegetables and fruits, so it'll be fine.
Oh, excellent. Oh, good. Well done. Very lucky. Not everyone is so lucky, to live in places where there's fresh fruit. So excellent. All right. So here we go. What is our approach? So those are the two books I just shared with you a minute ago. But our approach is simple. First, let's help ourselves. First, let's integrate the information into our own life. Let's first take care of ourselves. That's what Hippocrates says, right? Physician, heal thyself. So, I'm not saying that you have to always live absolutely perfectly, only eat fruit always and never do anything that's unconscious. No, you know what? We're human and we're going to eat some funny things sometimes. I get that. That's normal. That's fine to some degree. But what is critical is that we always have experience in our own personal body. Okay, we use this information first towards us, and then we share it. But it doesn't go the other direction. We don't share what we don't do. Okay? Period. Okay. So first things first, let's take care of ourselves. Whether it's chemistry, anatomy, physiology, energetics, electromagnetism, psychology, spirituality, everyone's saying the same. We are primates. We have a certain psychology. We have a certain physiology. We're designed to eat a certain way. As long as we do that, we have, like I've just said, a greater chance of preventing issues and resolving issues. When we do not eat or live according to chemistry, anatomy, physiology, and magnetism, psychology, when we move away from that alignment, that's called suffering, it's called disease, and that's called early death. Okay. The laws of nature, we could call this. We can say that all of this stuff is us aligning to the laws of nature. Well, guess what? The laws of nature never break. They never break. What breaks is us. We break on the laws of nature if we do not follow them. But they don't break, they don't change. Okay, we are who we are. And I'll talk about what kind of species we are in a minute. But we cannot not be that. Okay, we cannot not be primates. You can learn complicated mathematics. You can have an opposable thumb. You can do all kinds of things, but you're always going to be a primate. And you're always going to have a certain type of digestive system. And that can never change no matter what. No matter who you think you are what you are, which is a primate. Okay, and that's why these sciences are all aligning. That's why everything makes so much sense. It's like, wow, everyone agrees. Okay. So what else is about our approach? Well, that is kind of fundamental here. Look at this lesson. I already said it, and that'll happen sometimes in this course where it's the nature of a course like this, where some little things will just get repeated. But I don't mind that, because these things that get repeated need to be repeated. For example, this: prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. It's funny that that's true. And the thing is that here's the ironic part, okay? As a healer or as a health educator, or as somebody in this field of wellness and well-being, here's the ironic part. Ready? The ironic part is that prevention is much, much better than cure, but with prevention, you don't get any credit. You know what I mean? Like, if someone comes to you with cancer and you tell them what to do and then their cancer gets resolved, you're like the greatest healer in the whole world. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get, everyone cheers you on and wow, that's amazing. Look at those results and how great you are. But if what you did instead of that was tell someone what to do so that they never got cancer in the first place, well, in my opinion, that's better, number one. But number two, because it's a lot better to prevent it than to cure it, right? Curing it, okay, like, we can do that, and that's wonderful, and we can resolve things, but it's always better to have prevented it in the first place. So, but you don't get any credit for prevention. It's like, you could do it, you can prevent all day long, nobody will ever know you did it. So we really, really are working for God. I don't mean to say that lightly. I mean, you're really working for what's almost karma yoga, in a sense, almost like doing it because it makes the world a better place. You may not get credit for it. You may not get name and fame because you're doing such good work. You're preventing people's problems. That, to me, is sacred stuff. Okay. But, if they do end up having a health challenge or some sort of symptomology, fine, we'll resolve it, because it's going to be the same protocol. The same protocols that prevent are the same ones that resolve. Of course, to resolve it takes a real 100% type of action, whereas prevention might be an 80% action. Okay. But other than that, it's the same protocol. Okay. We need to avoid the things we need to avoid. We need to eat more of what we need to eat, and we need to understand the rest of the factors that we'll talk about soon enough. Okay. But by far, prevention is better than cure. All right. Well, what's the foundation of this whole training? We could say is based upon this here, what you see there on the screen. See, the body heals itself. The body heals itself. Did you know that? Did you know that? I mean, it's kind of self-evident, right? How if you cut your skin or something, that even if it's bleeding, that the next day you have a scab, right? And then the next day or whatever, it's starting to peel off, and all of a sudden 3 days later, maybe there's a little slight mark there, but it's completely healed. Your body did that. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when you cut yourself, did you go to the doctor? And did the doctor tell you how to heal yourself? Is that how it worked? Did the doctor give you a pill? Or did it heal by itself? Heal by itself. Because the body always heals itself. Okay. This is the number one operating modus operandi, we could say, or information operandi that we operate under. The body heals itself. But you see what I wrote here on this? But you see that little word "but"? Let's talk about that little word "but." Okay. Well, the body heals itself right there on the right side, if we create the right conditions for it. So what we're talking about in another language is to say that we need to give our body an environment for healing, what's called a healing environment. If we can give our body a healing environment, the body will always heal itself. My skin will heal. But if every single day I wake up with a fork and I open up the injury with a fork or a knife, then it will not heal, right? It will not heal, but it will not heal not because it can't, but because I'm getting in the way. I'm interfering with the healing process. So although this will heal, it will only heal if I give it the environment. What is the environment for a skin injury? It would be clean it, leave it alone. Okay, don't open it with a fork every day. Okay, and that's a healing environment. As long as I give it so here's the thing though, right? The wisdom of China has a saying. Okay, they have a great saying. It says, as above, like as above, so below. Okay, which means that the operations that are perceivable in the superficial dimensions, the same operations are happening in the deeper dimensions. In other words, if I see that my skin is healing, well, that's superficial. Well, guess what? Underneath it are my blood vessels. Underneath it are my internal organs. Underneath it, well, as above, so below. So the same way that my skin heals, my blood vessels heal, my muscles heal, my internal organs heal. But what? We've got to give it the healing environment. Okay? You give it the healing environment, and of course, every different thing will have a different healing environment. And that's the whole thing. Now, for the most part, the healing environment will be very consistent. Okay? We'll talk about that. And that's the next thing. What is the healing environment? But again, sometimes they're very specific. For example, if you're an alcoholic and you've got a liver cirrhosis or a liver damage, well, first part of your healing environment is you must stop drinking, right? Because it's alcohol destroying the liver. So we've got to take any polluted river can heal itself. Well, we can say it can clean itself. Any polluted river can become clean again. But do you know what's required to make a dirty river clean again? What's required? Well, what's required is you got to shut down the factories that are on the side of the river that are pouring all the chemicals into it, right? So as long as you can eliminate what is causing the situation, the body will always heal itself. Okay, and I mean always. This is the thing, always. But we just have to get the environment, and that's what we're going to talk about next. What is the healing environment? Okay, so my book here, the Median Wellness Protocol. Okay, 5 fundamental factors to strengthen your immune system. Okay, so anybody who wants to help somebody else, okay, and I guess this is kind of one of the main weaknesses of the system that we find ourselves in, is that there's a lot of division, a lot of separation, a lot of isolation and specialties. So, the psychiatrist or the psychologist, they're going to want to work with your mind. The physical trainer, they're going to work with your body. The nutritionist is going to tell you what to eat. And the medical doctor is not going to be interested in any of that stuff. Okay, everyone's working in their own world. And in a way that's extremely segregated, we could say, and divided. But that will never, ever work to help somebody. If you want to help somebody in this world, in a physical body, it's never going to be just one thing. Never. It'll never just be, oh, it's only your mind, or it's just your diet, or it's just the exercise. No, 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 no. It'll never just be one. It's all of them. The truth is there's at least 5 fundamental factors that must be addressed if you, as a health educator, want to help someone to improve their environment. 5 factors that all have to be interrelated. You see, the cover of this book has these arrows. Okay, I really like this image because the way these arrows operate is I'm going to talk about soon enough, called a positive. And that's going to be a very important principle. We're going to get to that in a minute. So what is the 5 fundamental factors and what is this positive feedback? Well, factor 1, exercise. How are you exercising? I'll recommend yoga, I'll recommend swimming, I'll recommend different types of exercises that are extremely valuable. We'll talk about the exercise part in a moment. Factor 2, what are you eating? What are you eating? Factor 3, how are you using your mind? How is the mind being used? The best friend. We'll talk about the mind, of course. Factor 4, are you getting enough rest? Or are you deprived of your sleep? Are you exhausted all the time? And factor 5, are you living more organically or less organically? In other words, are you creating a lot of, are you ingesting a lot of toxins in your life, a lot of poisons? And there's a lot of ways to ingest poisons into your body that maybe you were not aware of. But the fact is that when you align these 5 factors, you will create something that you see on the top of that slide there called a positive feedback loop or a positive feedback cycle. So do you know what a feedback cycle is? A feedback cycle is like a snowball. Okay, and in the Seychelles, there's not a lot of snow, but but you know, have you ever seen the metaphor of a snowball that it rolls down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it rolls down? Metaphor, and I've never seen that either, but okay, but that's supposedly what happens. And what that's a metaphor for a feedback mechanism, which means that every single variable that you are engaging with reinforces the other variables. So everything you're doing brings everything else stronger and stronger and stronger. In other words, when you start exercising, you naturally tend to eat a little bit better. So when you naturally start to eat a little bit better, then you want to exercise more. And then the more you exercise, the better is the mind. The mind has got more equanimity, is more relaxed. Well, the mind is more relaxed, then you want to eat better. And then the more you eat better, then you want to exercise. And the more you exercise, then the mind gets better. And you see everything just, then you rest better and you make more. It's like every decision, every action reinforces the other ones. That's a positive feedback cycle. That's what our intention is, to do that with ourselves, to put ourselves on a positive feedback loop. And then, of course, to help our clients and our students. How do you do it? Positive feedback loop is with 5 factors. Like I said, start with exercise, then we talk about food, then we talk about the mind, then we make sure they're getting enough rest, and then we talk about how they're poisoning themselves and how to do that less. Okay, so the factor of food is how do we eat? Okay. I mean, this entire training is going to be based upon how do we eat. So I'm not going to give the entire lecture right now. This is just discussing the factors. All right, are we going to eat like these guys on the slides? You know, it's funny, I haven't really yet given you my background, but I'll tell you briefly that I grew up eating just like these kids on the profile, on the slide. That was my diet, actually. Pizza, French fries, cheeseburgers, and Coca-Cola. 22 years, that's all I ever ate. Okay, I never ate fruit. I never ate vegetables. I did not learn anything about this stuff until I was in my early 20s. Okay, I almost died in 1998 from a parasite in Africa. And when I came back to the United States in 1998, I was really sick, and I was basically recovering from near death. And that's when I kind of found yoga, and that's when I found this world of understanding about food and nutrition. And I started studying it back then in 98, 99. And then I did my 7 years of raw food. I opened up a raw food restaurant in 2002, in 2003 in South Beach. So I have a lot of experience with this stuff, but I did not start out this way. I did not. I started out like these guys. All I did was eat ice cream and cheeseburgers. Okay. So I'm not ever speaking to you from a judgmental position. This is simply a matter of awareness and experience and information. That's all it is. Okay. Well, factor 2 is exercise. Exercise. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just books and books and books and books that can just be written only on the benefits of physical exercise. Physical exercise is so valuable that in some cases, in some like overcomes people's dietary problems. In other words, some people, the value of exercise is so huge that it even overcomes their shortcomings dietarily. That's how valuable exercise is. It's unbelievable. Exercise has to be every single day, no days off. It's extremely helpful. I mean, it's critical for the cardiovascular system. You know, it's really a circulatory pump. It is critical for the nervous system. There's no way to be relaxed or to sleep or to have any sort of positive attitude if you don't exercise. The only thing to do if you don't exercise is to be depressed. The immune system requires exercise. The lymphatic system requires movement. The muscular and the skeletal systems, they atrophy every single day that you don't use them. The spiritual benefit, there's the real, I mean, to me, one of the best ways to connect to divinity is through that experience of moving your body, you know, as a meditation, and the energetic benefits. I mean, how anyone who doesn't exercise feels good in their life or feels energized, and I don't understand. Okay, just to me, it's impossible. So the benefits of exercise are extraordinary. The best exercises you see there are swimming and yoga, because they work with the entire body. Okay, swimming is very, very valuable. It has a lot of cardiovascular benefits, and it's very dynamic. But yoga might even be better. I don't say you have to choose. You know, you don't have to choose. But yoga is very good because yoga does things that other exercises don't do. With yoga, you twist, you move your spine forward, backwards, you right side, left side, upside down, stretching, strengthening. So if you do not already practice yoga, and you want to, let me know. I have many videos on YouTube, and you can practice with me on the videos. Okay. Reasons to exercise every day. Well, circulation. Your heart does half the circulation of your body, and then your muscles do the other half. So you literally, the moving of your body is the second half of your circulatory system. Your fascia is your connective tissue that's underneath your muscles and in between your muscles. And if you do not stretch your fascia, if you do not open your body, then every day your fascia will get denser and smaller. It will actually start to lessen your range of motion. And some people call that aging. They call it aging when people get smaller and they get weaker and they get, their body get less capacity. People call it aging. It's not aging. It's just what happens when you don't move your body. Okay, your body has to get moved every day, just like an animal in nature. Okay, animals in nature do not take days off. You never see a chimpanzee on Sunday on the bottom of the tree saying, no, I'm not going to climb today. Today's Sunday. Or you never see a bird just lying on the ground saying, yeah, it's Sunday, I'm not going to fly today. No, all animals are designed for movement, ourselves included. That's why they say sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is the new smoking. Sitting sedentary all day long and not exercising thoroughly once a day at least is very dangerous for us. Our immune system needs it. Like I said, our lymphatic system is review. Our mind needs it. There's no way to sleep properly without exercise. And actually, when it comes to weight loss, you better sleep. You have to exercise and you have to sleep. That's what weight loss is based on. Okay. So, a day without exercise is not a good day. I mean, to me, a day without exercise is impossible. Okay. There are no days off. This is not optional stuff. You want to have wellness, you have to exercise every single day. The mind. Okay. I could probably talk about the mind for 10 hours. You know what I mean? Like, we could literally talk about this, and I will do my best to introduce it. But this is something that cannot be over described, because the mind is the center of everything. It's the center of your entire experience. And your mind can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. Period. And the question is, are you aware of your thoughts? Are you conscious of what's going on inside of your head? Because that is the only question. When your mind is thinking, are you aware of what you're thinking, or are you identifying with your thoughts? You see, because if you're aware that you're thinking, then you're not identifying with your thoughts, you are observing your thoughts. So you see the difference between observing your thoughts, which means that you are not your thoughts, because you cannot be what you observe, right? As opposed to thinking that you are your thoughts and identifying with them. Now, the first skill is to become aware and to be able to watch your mind and watch your thoughts. The second skill is to be able to disengage the thought streams that are not valuable for you. So in other words, as I observe my mind, if I am thinking about self-criticism, if I'm thinking, punishing myself mentally, if I'm doing anything like that, and then I could become aware of it. I could become aware of it. Well, then I could just disengage it. And then I could say, oh, wow, that's not fair for me to be critical of myself. I did my best. I need to have compassion. I need to take a couple of deep breaths and become more aware. Okay. But the key skill is called vigilance. This key skill is called awareness. And the key skill is not to think too much. Okay. I like that quote. Don't think too much. You'll create a problem that wasn't even there in the first place. It's like the intellect does not solve problems. It usually creates them. So when it comes to the mind, less is more. Okay. The less thinking, the more we will be present. But whatever we are, when we are thinking, we just simply need to be aware of it and become aware of whether what we're thinking is in our best interest or not. Okay. So one quote I like to usually use or say is that if your thought, if your mental thought does not begin with the words, thank you, God, right? If those are not the first three words of your thoughts, then your thought is worthless. And you don't have to have that. That one is not valuable. If it doesn't start with the words, thank you, God, it's not that thought. You can leave it. Okay. That's how I kind of see this. Okay. You want to think or feel gratitude? Good. That's perfect. Otherwise, what else would you be using your mind for? You want to read a book? Sure. Use your mind to read a book and study and do mathematics. Fine. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the mind just spinning by itself. And if it's going to just spin by itself, it better start with the words, thank you, God. So this is an important subject. This is all related. Of course, everything's related. Psychoneuroimmunology. Have you heard of that? Well, let's break it down, right? You got psycho, neuro, and immunology. So psycho is the mind, your thoughts. How does your thoughts, your psychology affect your nervous system, your neurons, your nervous system, and how does that affect your immune system? Well, it's all one science. That's why it's called psychoneuroimmunology. In other words, every single thought that you think, every thought you think will have an effect on your nervous system. It will either create what's called a sympathetic, meaning a fear-based, stress-based, adrenaline-based response, or your thought will create a parasympathetic, a relaxing, healing response. One or the other. Every thought you have will either be your best friend or your worst enemy. It will either heal you or poison you because of something called your endocrine system, which of course we'll be addressing soon enough. But the endocrine system is a system that is secreting chemicals, hormones. And the chemicals it secretes relate directly to your nervous system, to your thoughts. So if you're thinking negatively, or fear or stress is coming through your mind, you're going to release fear and stress-based hormones like adrenaline, which is very destructive. But if you're meditating on relaxation and on surrender to God's will, and you're relaxing and you're meditating on and you're thinking about that, well, then your nervous system will activate the parasympathetic side, and then your immune system will get stronger. So isn't that interesting? Every single, without exception, will either heal you or hurt you. And it is your job to be aware so that you are only allowing the processes of the mind that are going to be parasympathetic, that are going to be helpful and healing and relaxing, and you're not going to engage with or entertain or tolerate the types of thoughts that are self-destructive, self-critical, or critical of others. Because every negative thought will have a negative reaction hormonally. Okay, so that's this fundamentals of psychoneuroimmunology. Okay, the biodirectional linkages between the central nervous system, the endocrine system, the immune system. Okay, and then the clinical implications of these linkages. Okay. So this is the subject, the meditation, the subconscious mind, that, I mean, if I wanted to, I could speak about this for the rest of the session. I will not, because we just have so much to cover. So instead, I will review this, or not review it, I will synthesize this. Do you see the picture there of the iceberg and the conscious mind, the metaphor of the conscious mind, the subconscious mind? Well, what needs to be appreciated is that the subconscious mind is absorbing, recording, and affecting your conscious mind at all times. So everything that takes place under the field of your presence, even when you're sleeping, your subconscious mind is recording, okay? And once you have your subconscious mind programmed through different means, and I'll talk about how your subconscious mind was programmed, I'll describe that. But once it is programmed, then your conscious mind really just kind of unwinds itself as a result of all of your subconscious programming. In other words, what you think of as your conscious mind is really just the result of your subconscious programs. Now, there's a really important word, and I'll just make it clear and simple. And the word is called suggestion. And suggestion is the most powerful force in the universe. And suggestion is the reason why you think everything that you think. Every single thing that you think about the world and about yourself is the result of someone else suggesting that to you, giving you a suggestion, telling you about yourself. When you were born, your parents did it. They told you who you were. They told you everything about yourself. But as they were telling you and suggesting to you, who you were and who you had to be, were they doing it in your best interest or in their best interest? Were they molding you to be who you wanted to be or who they wanted you to be? Well, most of the time we're being suggested and molded and programmed into being what other people want us to be. And we're being programmed and we're learning about things as other people want us to learn. It's very important that you appreciate this. The world of suggestion is coming at you at all directions. In the world of advertising, in the world of other people that want to control you, in the world of politics, everyone is suggesting to you. Your job now is to realize that suggestion needs to be filtered and needs to be recognized so that your subconscious mind is not being programmed by other people and their other interests. And in time, you will program it yourself. And this is what's called affirmation. This is what's called auto-suggestion. And this is very important that you appreciate this, okay? And we can talk about this as we go on if you have any questions. Rest and restoration is the fourth factor. And I cannot overstate how important it is that you get enough rest. It's not just about eating. It's not just about exercise, not just about you better rest. Now, what does that mean? It means hopefully somewhere between 6 and 8 hours of decent sleep. And if you have the luxury that you can take a 10-minute nap, you could take 10 minutes and do a little nap, do it. Okay, any type of rest. If you are deprived of sleep, it's the same as being drunk. Your immune system gets suppressed. Your ability to think basically disappears. I mean, have you ever tried to do anything when you're exhausted? There's no way. It's the nerve. Well, and of course, that's why people are forced to take stimulants, and for good reason. I mean, in the sense that if they have to continue to work and they have to continue to function, well, they better do something about it. Okay, they better take some sort of a drug, and that's what caffeine is. Okay, sounds good, Shireen. Sounds good. Okay, so this is one of the things that our society is doing, which is not ideal, is that we are taking drugs to stay awake during the day and then taking drugs to go to sleep at night. So of course, you know, we're so exhausted that during the day we are taking caffeine and other kind of stimulants to keep us going, chocolates and anything that has caffeine, of course, it all works. And then we get so revved up and so jacked up and we don't exercise and we have all this nervous system extra, and then we don't even sleep, and then we take another pill for sleeping. That is not sustainable, and that is certainly not recommended. I love, this is a really wonderful quote here. It says, "This, my single most effective trick for getting things done is to stop doing what I'm doing and get some sleep." Oh, that's Ariana Huffington. That's one of her quotes. Pretty cool. I thought it was a great quote. You know, the most important thing I can do to get things done is stop doing, get some sleep. So what does sleep do? It stabilizes your blood sugar levels. Okay. Yeah. It reduces stress levels. Okay. It builds your muscles, actually, sleep, because that's the repair process. It makes you feel happier because you wake up and you're well rested. That's endorphins. And it's very important for weight loss. Very important for weight loss. Yeah, correct. Caffeine is a stimulant. It's a drug. It's an acidic alkaloid. And when possible, you're going to want to avoid coffee whenever possible. Okay, the last factor here is organic living. that might sound familiar. Live organically or organic food. We're not talking about that sense of just organic food. No. We're talking about living means you have got to stop poisoning yourself. You got to stop poisoning yourself. I mean, when I say poisoning yourself, maybe you think that I am understating it or I'm exaggerating, oh no. He's saying poisoning himself, but I mean, that's a little bit too much, right? Isn't that what you think? That's not how it is. This is real poisons. These are things that if you ate them, you would die. Okay. We're talking about antiperspirants that have aluminum. We're talking about sunblocks, sunscreens that have all these toxins. We're talking about your creams, your lotions. Girls, we're talking about your shampoos. I don't have that problem. We're talking about the soaps that you use. We're talking about the air fresheners in your bathrooms. We're talking about those little trees that they hang up on the mirrors of a car that smell like that. Anything that smells is poisonous unless it's an actual flower. I mean, a real flower. We're not talking about something with a flower essence. No, a real flower. Okay. Anything else, if it smells clean, it's dirty. It's not just dirty, it's poisonous, disgusting. I don't know if my tone of voice is describing how serious this is, guys, but we are really, we could say, lab rats when it comes to these chemicals that never existed 30 years ago. And so that I might say this later, but I'll just say it now. Anything that you put on your skin, you ate it. You ate it. If you put it on your skin, you ate it. Because what's into your blood? Your skin is not plastic. It's a sponge. It's membranes. I mean, haven't you ever, known people that wanted to quit smoking cigarettes? So what do you do to quit smoking cigarettes? Well, one way is you can take nicotine directly through the skin, through a patch. They just put a patch right there, and then they don't have to smoke because they're getting the nicotine. How does that work? Well, it works because, of course, your skin absorbs everything that you touch. So one rule about this organic living and this skincare for the women and the men that use these products, one rule is this: if you would not eat it, do not put it on your skin. Okay? If you would not eat it. So whatever you have, whatever you go into your bathroom and you look around, would you open the bottle and put it in your mouth and swallow a whole mouthful of that? The answer is no, then don't put it on your skin either. So what is something that you could put on your skin and that you could also eat? Coconut oil. Coconut oil, absolutely. That's perfect. Okay. So that's a great, and it's really a secret in looking young, and because it's really good to eat it. It's also really good to put on your skin. But that's an example of skincare that actually is intelligent. Okay. Well, not just, when in the world of organic living, it's not just avoid toxic drugs and toxic sprays and toxic chemicals. It's also avoid toxic people. Okay, toxic people out there that are bringing you down. Okay, people out there that are not part of your healing process. People that are spreading negativity. People that are criticizing you all the time, or just criticizing other people all the time. People that waste your time. People that are jealous. People that are playing the victim. People that don't care about you or anybody. People that are self-centered, that are disappointing you. Get rid of these people. These are negative, toxic people, and you don't have time for that. You don't have time on a healing journey to be pulled down like that. Okay, you're moving forward, you're moving up, your vibration is getting bigger, it's expanding. You do not have the luxury, even you could call it, or the interest to let someone else take you down. There are people, they're called energetic vampires. Energetic vampires. These are people that are sucking your energy all the time. They might not have horns. They might not look like they have fangs, but they are equally as deadly in the sense that what they're doing is sucking your vitality out of you. How do they do it? Just like we said here, they're victims, they're jealous, they're criticizing, they're repeating the same mistakes, and they leave you exhausted. As a healer, as an educator, you cannot afford to let any one person take so much of your energy that you don't have energy left to help everybody else. All right, let's talk about the value of discipline and what it means. So discipline, it's kind of like the foundation. It's something that once you have it, you can use it in so many different directions. Once you understand about discipline and you know how to apply it in one way, in other words, if you have a lot of discipline with exercise, there's a pretty good chance that you could transfer that into, for example, maybe eating more fruit. Okay, and this is why discipline is so great and so important. And to me, the most important discipline is daily exercise, because with daily exercise, now you really get on that train, that positive feedback train that we were talking about. So what we want to do every day, we want to exercise every day. We want to, by that, we're going to be breathing deeply every day, oxygenation. It's so important. It's why deep breathing is so valuable, because disease does not live in oxygenated environments. It only lives in the unoxygenated environments, according to some of the masters. We want to meditate every day, 10 minutes a day of meditation. We want to feel an attitude where everything that we see is through a lens of gratitude. Okay, like we don't see anything unless it's through gratitude. Even our problems, an example of that, I hurt my foot the other day, and I couldn't walk for like a whole night. I couldn't walk. I bruised, or I thought I had broke my foot. But the entire time that I couldn't walk, the entire time that my foot hurt, I would never complain, because I knew that the only way that my foot could hurt is I had to have a foot in the first place. So there was no way I could have a hurt foot if I didn't have a foot. So I was just thankful for my foot. And then the pain was there, sure, but I didn't have an issue with that, because I was just having gratitude. At least I have a foot. And if I didn't have a foot, I couldn't have a hurt foot, period. And I left it at that. And the next day I felt better, because, the body heals itself. And I wasn't, identifying with the injury in any way. So another discipline is to get into nature, get outside, walk barefoot, get some sunshine. Okay. Find a connection with a spiritual practice. Maybe that's your religion. Maybe that's something more universal, whatever it is. But find a discipline, find a connection, find a way of a daily, look, in Sanskrit, we call this sadhana. Okay, that's a Sanskrit word, sadhana, and it means daily discipline. And your sadhana would be all of these things. When I'm in the ranch in Colombia, part of my sadhana is to do a cold swim, cold plunging into the water. Whatever it is, it's daily, it's discipline, and it's really the foundation for your ability to evolve. Because without discipline, we really don't go very far. So, what's the difference then between someone who's surviving and someone who's thriving? And what's the point? It's actually a chapter in one of my other, surviving versus thriving. Well, we can all, for at least a while, survive. We could eat like an omnivore. We could eat like crap, which I did for many years, of course. And if we're really lucky, we'll survive through it. And we may not feel great. We may not know that we don't feel good, but we could survive. We can make it through. But that's not the same thing as thriving, as really experiencing our maximum potential, and really experiencing, wow, how strong can the body be, or how healthy or how great can I feel? How much energy can I feel? The difference between your physical body operating at a high level and your physical body operating at a mediocre level. And it's just like any kind of an engine. You can have an engine, you could put an inferior type of fuel in the engine. It might run for a while, it might, but at some point it's going to break down, because if you do not give the biology, or in that metaphor, the mechanical nature, you don't give it what it needs, you don't give it the right fuel, it will not operate. Same thing for us. If we don't give it the right factors, the heart will keep beating. The Spanish is tonight. La español es en la noche. And it'll keep going, but not in a way that we're really designed to do it. So my encouragement is to have a little experiment here. Try these things that we're talking about, eating all this fruit, and see the difference between how you were living before and how you're feeling now, because that's really what it's all about. Okay, let's see the difference between thriving, which is to be flourishing and to be moving towards your goals and to be moving forward, versus surviving, which is, oh, I'm just getting on. Okay, let's look at some of these great masters. Okay, some of these great masters have come before us. These are titans, these are icons, these are some of the most important people. Okay, first there is Dr. Arnold Ehret, Professor Arnold Ehret, we call him. That book, The Mucusless Diet Healing System, oh my God, everyone has to read that. Okay, I don't even think I put it in the list because I knew I was going to talk about it here. That book, if you want to be a healer on this path, you must read that book, The Mucusless Diet Healing System. There's Herbert Shelton, who we already saw, who wrote this tremendous book on natural hygiene, which really was the basis for our manual. Dr. Robert Snydak there is one of my personal teachers. I studied with him personally, and he is a true leader, and he wrote our manual. Dr. Michael Greger, he is a medical doctor who wrote the book How Not to Die. Dr. John McDougall, another medical doctor, who, these are pioneers in these are the top medical doctors who are talking about plant-based living. Okay, these are them: Dr. McDougall, Dr. Greger, and here's Dr. Morris. Dr. Robert Morris, he's not a medical doctor, but who cares? He's a naturopathic doctor with 50, 60 years of experience. He is our main teacher. There's the book, the Detox Miracle Source book. That is the book that you will be reading word for word, because your homework questions are all going to come out of that book. Okay, so you'll be reading the whole thing. Dr. Neil Barnard and the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. A huge resource for us. Okay, so like I said, many medical doctors are unconscious and are perpetuating more and more disease and more suffering, but not all of them. There are a few serious leaders that are medical doctors that are really leading the way to hopefully challenge and transform the way that their colleagues are practicing medicine, because they see it from the inside. And they're the ones that they've seen it doesn't work. They've seen it does not work. What the allopathic system, they're on the inside, and they have learned to approach what we call lifestyle medicine, preventative medicine, understanding how to heal instead of simply understanding pathology and symptomology. Here's a couple more extremely important masters. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And there's videos on all of these guys, and I believe there's videos in the playlist that I've given you on all these guys. Okay, Dr. Campbell, the author of the China study. These are the pioneers. These are the great masters who are leading the way. Dr. Dean Ornish, I mean, he was the first person. Dr. Dean Ornish deserves more credit than almost anybody. He was the first person, the first medical doctor to literally change or to be able to change the entire paradigm of medicine. You see, before Dr. Ornish and his studies with heart disease, before that, it was assumed, and it is today by many people who don't know, but it's assumed that once you have heart disease or cardiovascular disease, that it would never, ever go away. That your state of your cardiovascular system, it could get made worse, but it could never be made better. It can only be kind of managed by drugs. But Dr. Dean Ornish proved for the first time, and it may sound common knowledge to you now, but it was not common knowledge in the 1980s, when he proved you could reverse heart disease through the diet. You could reverse it. That's, like I said, it sounds simple to you now, but it wasn't. This was the first time that the medical paradigm had to acknowledge, wait a minute, we got it all wrong. Now, of course, they don't study him. And if you go to a cardiologist, they're not going to tell you to change their diet. They're going to tell you, let's go into bypass surgery. But the truth is, you have a choice. And you don't have to go to surgery, because you can reverse heart disease, cardiovascular disease, through dietary and lifestyle means. And it's been proven, and Dr. Dean Ornish was the guy to do that. Okay, so here are some plant-based films and documentaries, many of which are on your playlist. There's Educated, there's What You Eat Matters, there's Planet, there's Live and Let Live. These are all extremely great documentaries. A Delicate Balance, Endgame, McLibel, Dying to Have Known, and there's so many now. Forks Over Knives, Plant Pure Nation, Eating You Alive, Food Choices, Code Blue, Foods That Cure Disease. You can go on Netflix, go on to YouTube, and you'll see the playlist that I've given you. And you'll see that is, so those videos are there, okay, as well as many others. So the fundamental cause of disease, what is it? Well, of course, you can reduce the cause of disease in different ways, but one of the most fundamental causes is something called constipation. Constipation, there's kinds of constipation. There's the constipation of your intestines, means you cannot go to the bathroom, which creates a feedback cycle of more toxicity in your environment. Because imagine that if you cannot eliminate your waste, and your waste is toxic and acidic and poisonous, and you cannot eliminate it, then you're just going to keep accumulating more and more. Well, you can see why that is the beginning of the disease process. But there's another kind, there's another kind of constipation, which is called interstitial. That means that your lymphatic system is constipated. And if your lymphatic system is constipated and you're not eliminating your cellular wastes, now you're going to have interstitial acidosis and the beginning of inflammation, irritation, cellular damage, and what then becomes known as the cancer process. So we'll be talking about this, of course, later on. We talk about the medical symptoms and the conditions, and what's so common, and constipation, of course, being one of the main common conditions that we see. But it is extremely dangerous, and as we'll talk about it when we get there, it must be addressed. Okay. Now, when it comes to understanding wellness and diet and food, we've got to understand that there's really stages of processes of assimilation and integration of what we're eating. The first thing is ingestion. We got to eat it and chew it. The second thing is that we got to digest it. Then we have to absorb it. So it's not just digestion, it's absorption. And this is really one of the main links that gets broken, because even if someone is digesting their food, if their intestines are plaqued up, their intestines have plaques, they're hardened with mucus, and then there's no membranes for absorption. There's no absorption, which is why you see people can eat a lot of food and be malnourished, or they can eat a lot of food and still be hungry, right? This is better said, maybe not malnourished, but they're still hungry because maybe they are malnourished actually, because they're not absorbing. After you absorb, then you have to utilize it, okay, which is another factor, another step in the process. And then after all that, you have to eliminate it. Now, if any one of those steps is compromised, you will not thrive. You will not enjoy well-being. So ingestion, digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination all have to be in line. Now, of course, the body is extremely complex. I mean, it's mysterious, it's magical, it's mystical, it is beyond comprehension, the human body and its majesty, its intelligence. But if we wanted to, we could simplify it a little bit or a lot and describe that the body essentially is made up. Okay, I know this is reduced, but the body is essentially made up of a bunch of cells, meaning the cells of your body, and two major fluids. Your body is made up of the cells, okay? When all the cells are the same, that's called tissue, okay? And all your organs are made up of different tissues, but it's just cells. Every cell is a living being. Every cell is like a little organism. Every cell is a little organism. You have, I don't know, they say 100 trillion cells or whatever the number is. No one really knows, but it's a vast number of individual cells that are all coordinating, communicating, and doing their thing. And they're all being bathed or floating into two major fluids. And those two fluids are blood and lymph. Blood and lymph. Blood is the plasma. One second here, and I will continue that. So I will continue that in a moment. All right, so basically, the blood consists of plasma, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and platelets, whereas the lymph is the plasma, which is the clear liquid part, and the white blood cells, which is your immune system cells. Okay, and blood is red because it has hemoglobin, which is an iron-based molecule, and lymph is more clear. Okay, so what's going on here? You got these two major fluids, and what's the difference? Well, basically, the difference is that they have two completely different roles in your body. The role of blood is to deliver nutrients and to essentially feed the body and to feed all the cells. And that's done through the capillaries, which then deliver the nutrients into what's called the interstitial fluid. And the interstitial fluid is where everything's floating around. And then the blood is feeding your cells. But your cells are going to eat. And then when they eat, they're going to have metabolism. And then the metabolism is going to generate waste product. Every cell eats and every cell poops or has a waste. And that waste has to get eliminated. And that waste gets eliminated through what's called the lymphatic system. It moves into the lymph, interstitial fluid, into the lymph vessels, and then from the lymph vessels out through the kidneys and out of the. So essentially, we have two major fluids. One can be considered the kitchen of your body. That's your blood, delivering nutrients and feeding your body. And the other would be considered more of the sewage system of your body. That's your lymphatic system, which is draining and removing the waste materials. Okay. All the while, your body is entirely liquid. You are basically a living ocean, and all of the cells are floating in fluid, which is called interstitial fluid, means between the cells. Okay, so we've got two sides of chemistry. And, again, to kind of reduce things a little bit, this can be reduced quite well. There are two sides of chemistry. The whole chemical spectrum, there's just one divisional line. The divisional line is between the side of acid and the side of base, or what's called alkaline. So you have the acid side of chemistry and the alkaline side of chemistry. And this is important to understand. This is what's called the pH scale. Okay, the pH scale, which stands for potential hydrogen. And in this scale, which goes from 0 to 14, the main number is 7, and 7 means neutral. So if you're going to go above 7, you're in the world of alkaline. And if you're going to go below 7, you're in the world of acid. And your body, your human body, is approximately, you see, just about 7.5, 7.4. And so what we need to do is this is where you've heard of, eat alkaline foods, because you want to eat foods that are going to alkalize your body instead of going to bring your body to more acid. So, vinegar and think coffee and milks, these are things that create an acid effect. Now, you might see that there's a lemon there. That's not, be careful. They're not saying that a lemon would create acidic in your body. A lemon is simply acidic when you test its acidity. Excuse me, here. A lemon is only acidic outside of nature, but inside, outside of your body. But once you have digested it, once you have digested the lemon, and the lemon has passed through your digestive system, it is no longer acidic. Now a lemon is the best way to alkalize your body. So I know that seems unusual, but we're going to learn about that too. Milk is the other way around. Milk, a lot of times, if you test its pH, is alkaline, but then after you eat it, it's acidic. Okay, which is why we do not ever want to take dairy products, because of their acidic nature once they have been digested. Okay, so this is the whole conversation about let's eat more alkaline foods, which is, of course, fruits and vegetables and melons and berries, and less acidic foods like alcohols, refined sugars, meats, cheeses, and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, because we really want to keep our body more in the direction of alkaline and definitely not in the direction of acid. Okay, so as I already mentioned, are toxins everywhere around us. Okay, and we have to identify them because they're really dangerous. And the fact that they're so common is what makes them so dangerous. The fact that everyone just thinks that they're normal and that's like that's okay to just spray the bathroom after you're done using it, or to constantly use, oh, by the way, your laundry detergent should be very organic. You should never use those fabric softeners. I mean, any chemical that you smell it, you cannot touch that stuff. Okay, get out of that stuff. Stop it. Stop poisoning yourself. The antiperspirant is extremely dangerous. This is one of the main causes of breast cancer, girls, because this stuff has aluminum. And aluminum is a heavy metal. Okay, so let's avoid chemical toxins. There's all kinds. These are some of the common names you might see in the ingredient lists of anything that you're looking at, to be avoided at all costs. Okay. Sodium lauryl sulfate is super famous, but all of these, if you see these, stay away. Okay. This is kind of a description of what they're doing and why they are so dangerous. We could read these all, but the fact is that you'll notice that there's a similarity here. They're causing major problems. causing cancer, causing depletion of oxygen level, causing brain, liver abnormalities. I mean, other things, cancer, sunscreen chemicals, by the way, causing cancer. Just things that you think are okay, and they're not okay. They must be avoided, and period. Okay, and don't let your kids use these things. Okay, but we got to stop being, the laboratory rats, and we need to start to wake up and to realize that if it wasn't made in nature, we don't want to touch it. We can get chemical exposures through food, through personal care products, from over-the-counter medicines, and any number of ways that you're going to get a chemical. You have to identify it and avoid it whenever you can. Can you avoid all chemical exposure? No, not all, but can you do your best? Yep. So there's something called, we talk about acid and alkaline and chemicals and all this stuff. And what happens is something called acidosis. Acidosis means that your body has become acidic. Well, if it becomes too acidic, you're just going to die. Okay, so this is why your body chooses to leach out the alkaline minerals out of your bones. It chooses to take the calcium out of your vessels and your bones and cause osteoporosis, because if you go acidic, you die. And so it will not do its best to not allow that. But these are just some symptoms of general acidosis. And it's interesting that this is known, but yet it's allowed for people just to continue to eat and to continue to acidify their body. When this is what happens: shortness of breath, coughing, arrhythmias, gas, vomiting, diarrhea, muscular seizures. This is what happens when our body becomes too acidic. Okay.